And we're going to jump to how society develops, and we're going to start talking about development of a society. So we'll begin there today, and we'll go into this a little bit. Now, this is Durkheim. Societies go from mechanical to organic. Now, mechanical is small to him. And organic is like an organism where every part plays a part. So a social institution is like the human body parts. The eyes do one thing, the ears do another thing, the legs do something else, the hands do something else, the fingers have a purpose. Everything in the human body, the heart, the lungs, they all have a reason for being there and a function. And the whole is an organic whole. So when we get larger, we become organic. When we start like a single cell. We start in a mechanical society. So for Durkheim, mechanical is smaller, where everyone is a jack of all trades. Everyone in a mechanical society is doing exactly the same job and task. People are carrying water. They're hunting for their food. They're growing their food. They're preparing their food. They're canning their food. Everybody does the same thing. So I grew up in a town of 60. There were 15 people in the 11 in the graduating class. My mother was a school teacher, and every row was a grade. Okay, row 1 was first grade, row 2, my mom taught us all. My dad was the minister. Now, we had crank telephones, believe it or not. You guys know what crank telephones are? Have you ever seen them? Have I told you about them? Well, you crank the phone around, and you crank it a number of times around, and it gives a long ring. And then you crank it a couple times, and it gives a small ring. But when it rings your phone and all 60 phones in town at the same time. So every time anybody in town calls anybody else, you know it because it rings at your house too. Now, if it was 2 shorts and a long, it was us, and somebody was calling us. If it was 8 longs, then somebody was calling everybody. And that was the fun thing at 9, because you could do 8 long rings and everybody in the whole town pick up a phone, and you would say, hey, we're having a potluck dinner tonight at the church, so bring something with you when you come to service tonight, and we'll all eat after service. Oh, okay. The basketball game's canceled because of weather. Okay. You with me? Now, do you see mechanical? You go to the grocery store, and it's the Pletzers, because they're actually 2 longs and a short. Is their phone? So when I'm sitting at home and you're 12 and you're bored and 2 longs and a short happens, everybody runs and picks up the phone. And then you look at mom and dad, and you put your hand over the little thing you speak on, and you hold this thing, and you go, oh, Sally's calling Randall. They go together, mom and dad, they're dating. Uh-oh. Randall was making out with Susie in the parking lot. Ooh, Sally's mad. Ooh, Randall's sucking up. Oh, they're breaking up. Next day in school, everybody knows. Randall, what were you thinking? Why'd you do that to her? Susie, what's wrong with you? Do you see a mechanical society? Everybody knows everybody else's business. Everybody knows everybody else's name. There's advantages and disadvantages to this. As a parent, there's a big advantage, because when we were messing off and doing something we shouldn't do, somebody picked up the phone and called your mom and dad, and they came out and got you. And you got in trouble. And every Friday night, people would stand in the alley and burn their trash, believe it or not, put kerosene on their trash and light it up, and all the kids would run around and play together. That was kind of fun. When the river was up, everybody in town would go fishing together, all 60 of us, cook out. was kind of a fun thing to do sometimes. Especially if your mom's the teacher and your dad's the minister. Not so much when your mom's the town drunk and you get that reputation. Do you see the statuses? And do you see how in the mechanical society you don't need police because everybody polices themselves because it's all, remember what I taught you with Kaufman in freshman management? You don't want to soil the family name so you don't act in certain ways so your mom and dad won't be looked down upon. Because at church everybody will talk about what you did wrong, believe me. Okay, do you see organic? Oklahoma City? I would go into the little store in Byron and I would tell the Miss Plutzer, I'd say, I'm getting a Coke and a candy bar, and she'd put a little thing down and write it on a little thing, and it went on Dad's bill. And every month Dad would come in and pay the bill, so you didn't have to have money because people would just give you things. And when somebody was broke and their house got in trouble, we'd all go rebuild it for them. Okay. Then we got uptown, we got a phone where you pick it up and it went to an operator. Like one dingy that a comedian does, you know, where you plug things in on a little. And then you couldn't call from 2 to 4 because the operator was asleep, it was nap time. And you couldn't call after 9 o'clock at night because you'd wake her up and she'd get mad unless it was an emergency. And she'd plug in and listen, boy. And if it wasn't an emergency, she'd come on the line and cut you off. I'm not connecting this call anymore. It's not an emergency. What are you doing waking me up? And she'd get mad at you. You see mechanical? Now, when you get to Oklahoma City, I didn't have to show an ID here. They knew my name. What happens here? They often won't take your check. They'll look at 2 forms of ID at least now because they don't know you. Does that make sense to you? Now, what I want to get to is this is called Gemeinschaft, mechanical, little. This is Ferdinand Tonus. And Gesellschaft is organic. So this is the word we usually use instead of Durkheim. We use these German words. It's actually Gemeinschaft, something like that, and Gesellschaft. Something, I don't know how to pronounce it. The people from Germany usually laugh at me if there's anybody in here when I say that and correct me, but you get the idea. Now, think of mine, M-E-I-N-E is M-I-N-E, mine, small. That's my stuff. And Gesell as selling things, a marketplace, a large place. That makes sense to you? Because here, everybody's a jack of the same trade, and everybody makes their own food, and everybody does the same thing. You don't have to ask people what they do for a living very much, because you know.